And time for the final part of this portrait demonstration. So we're going into the color layer here, and I'll go over a bit of the technique, why I did this, and how to approach this kind of painting. It's not the only way to approach a color portrait painting, obviously. It's just one of them, and it felt right in this situation, and also it was kind of agreed upon from the start, since the client had a taste of this technique already from my self-portrait, and kind of like that style overall. Of course, this portrait was refined more because it's a commission, so you know the result is quite different. Obviously, the photo was very different for these two portraits as well, if you compare, to the self-portrait I made with the final result of this painting. So, but yeah, let's get into it, and hope you enjoy. All right, so on to color. First thing you can see here is me mixing the base color uh, to paint on top of. So I mix it this kind of orangish reddish kind of base color, and I apply it in a thin layer uh, on top to kind of wet the surface, create the base color to compare the next colors into. And that's called a couch couche. It's a French word from the French Academy, basically. And the point of it is creates context for color, for one thing, and two, it creates the feeling of painting wet into wet. So basically the paint glides a bit more freely when you apply it, and doesn't leave this kind of scrubby look. It's a nice feeling, so that's partly why we do it. And yeah, the other reason, as I said, is applying the base color. Sometimes you can pretty much nail the color, like the base color already like this, so you don't really have to paint everything. You can just add, accents of red or cooler notes and stuff like this, and it's pretty much, enough for the portrait. At least for like a more simple project. And here you can see I'm just working the details of the baby's face on the eye for now, and taking my time with this stuff. And as I said, I'm slowly working the darks here, basically trying to create the sense of form and more accurate color. I mean, the base layer was kind of dull, this kind of um, orange gray color. So we want a bit more variety in life than that. So basically going over most of the things. And you saw me apply a little bit of the background color there, to adjust the edge of the nose, which is all right. That's how you correct things in oil painting. You apply a bit of the adjacent color and fix your drawing like that. And the bonus of doing that, of course, is you can, adjust the edge at the same time since the paint is wet. So you can blend it to whatever extent you want. And you saw me start with the head there, and getting a laying for the texture of the hair, which is apparent on the side of the head. Usually, uh, the most texture is shown in the kind of the edge of the form, in the halftones, because there can be a situation like in this where there's a bit of a raking light, meaning parts of the hairs catch light and parts leave a shadow underneath. So basically that means that there's a lot of texture showing because the contrast is pretty high. And here I think it's a new session or new lighting. Maybe I opened the curtains or something. The temperature changed a bit. Let's not have that um, disturb us. I think it's good. You can now see the painting in a slightly different light. Maybe it's a bit more cool. and you see it's not as warm as it seemed previously. So I applied a bit of skin tones for the baby's hand. It's basically just, two colors you see there, a little bit of redness for the fingers, and adjusting a little bit the background, drawing basically for the couch there and the edge. And as I said in the previous video, this shirt is, or blouse or whatever this is called, but it's green, and it's now that it's colorful, it's the same value as before. It looks like it's being struck by light, but and it looks fairly convincing, but it's actually a dark value. And now we flip back to the warmer light I had. So as you see, I apply the base coat for the grandpa's head, the couch. I'm just gonna call it couch because that feels easier. It's murdering the French word, but I don't know how to actually pronounce that, so let's just roll with it. Um, I had a little bit of redness for the ear. That's, I think, the only place where I applied a little bit of a different color for the base as opposed to the skin, because the ear tends to be more red. Could have done it for the nose as well. And started laying in the darks for the back of the head, as I discussed in the previous video. That's a good way to kind of start. You push the contrast in the places, in the dark places first, and so you get the full value range to compare to. That way you don't end up with the situation that you um, render out the full piece and then you add a dark note and you realize everything is too light, because that's how it works. Try it in graphite. You could draw a portrait and then try making the graphite as dark as you can, and you see how light you actually drew it if you don't actually intentionally push your values. So you can see now I'm basically painting more opaquely on top of this wet um, glaze layer, we can say, and trying to find the details of the portrait here. Also added a little bit of redness for the nose there, maybe a little bit excessive, but I'll turn to that in due time. The hair is kind of it's in the same kind of color family as the rest, but it's a cooler grayer version, so it appears white in context. But it's actually not like a mix of, ivory black and white. It's probably something like, raw umber and white maybe, which at least looking at the underpainting, it's quite likely that would appear as a cooler kind of gray yellow. So in general on this technique, I think it's a good way to approach painting, because the better you do the more simple layers, which is the drawing and the underpainting, the better this technique works actually, I think, because in the underlayers you can apply all kinds of texture and render the form very precisely, and in the final layer then your work is basically already cut out for you, and you can just kind of color in. You could even go as far as just do glazes, and some people do that. They don't paint opaquely in the final layer, and I think that's an old master thing as well. Like some old masters, I think, may have worked that way. I won't drop any names because someone will get mad at me and correct me, but there's so many contradicting accounts of how someone painted, as if they only painted one way, but yeah. So um, I think this is a good blend between just painting directly in color and painting in this kind of layered approach, where you can paint directly in color on top of this very nice base to work on, and you can easily fix mistakes in this manner. You can see all the colors in right contexts, and also like you don't have to cover everything. I mean, if you're doing an alla prima like start for a painting, of course you have to cover all of your painting, because otherwise it's not gonna be visual, that you can't see the information. In this case, I could just leave the ear as is, basically. Well, I wanted to take it further, of course, here, but in a way it would have worked like without any refinement. Maybe just push the shadows a little bit darker and that's it. And that can easily be done with a glaze. And you can see here I'm just trying to take my time with the features, really refine those. And again, as a comment, just keep in mind that the features are all in shadow on the grandpa. So the only like light place is the head, basically, which is kind of this spherical modeling that is visible there. Very simple to paint. So the tricky part in the shadows is basically keeping enough variety to keep it convincing and interesting, um, while keeping the values very close, and not getting them too light to read as lights, because you kind of want to keep those two families separate in order for the picture to read well. Otherwise it might appear very flat. And again, some painters have pushed this concept very far, having super light shadows and still making the form turn, especially in the 19th century. And they were amazing painters, so you can do that as well, but um, never say never. But of course, like if there's a guide like that, try to keep your lights and shadows separate. It's for a reason, because it just makes things more simple and easy, but there are exceptions. So here I'm moving on to the hand. I think the face is now finished for this layer. After this painting, I did do some minor adjustments to the features to just nail in on the likeness, basically. Just try to really finish that. And with that, uh, commissioner and the judges that were involved all came to the conclusion that it was a really good painting, and everyone was happy, including the subject of the picture. And it was actually for his 80th birthday that this was given as a gift. And I do encourage you to buy some artwork for your loved ones. That's always a good gift. It's way more meaningful than something that is, you know, a bit more surface level, let's say. Let's not get into that too much. I'm obviously very biased with this thing, but I do encourage you to do that. So go to my exhibition and buy some paintings, the few that are left. And here I'm refining the hands, as you can see, going a bit warmer and lighter at the top there. I think there was some kind of reflected light coming off a weird angle there, which kind of illuminates the tops of the fingers as well. Um, as I said, it's a weird lighting scenario where like there's a strong kind of sunlight hitting them from above and to the right, but also there's so many sources of reflected light. For example, the magazine is basically reflecting a lot of light into their faces frontally, and also like there's the shirt and all kinds of things reflecting light from below as well. So it was a bit tricky to manage that, but I think it was a really nice reference image, very kind of cozy and sentimental. So I think it's a nice memory for them to have. And you saw me tackle the watch there as well with the hand and arm. I like to keep that as simple and um, well, as simple as possible in order not to grab more attention than it deserves, because it's not a watch painting, it's a portrait painting. I have no issue with painting like accessories like that, but sometimes you would play those down a little bit in order to kind of keep the focus of the picture in the right place. And just to mention that the shirt was, as I said, the shirt was painted in a way where I tried to leave as many things untouched as possible, but I did kind of refine some things and apply a little bit more of this opaque paint for the lights especially. And that's also just for kind of variety of texture. And also it's kind of traditional to go for a glaze on your draperies. So here we came to a finish, and yeah, if you have any questions or wishes for next videos, leave those in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram. I'd be happy to read those. And thanks for watching.